It looks like you've uploaded a file related to a manhua or novel titled Li Hao, Crimson Legacy, Volume 12, containing chapters 121, 130. This volume delves into the protagonist Li Hao's journey after abandoning his claim to the throne, as he encounters mystical figures, ancient ruins, and an inner quest for purpose. How can I assist you with this content? Would you like a deeper summary, or perhaps help in visualizing scenes from the chapters? Li Hongzhuang's anger surged as she stared at the young figure before her. Are you joking? She spat, her voice dripping with disbelief. After enduring years of anticipation, the one to take over was a mere teenager. A fury burned within her heart. Yet, Li Hao stood calm, his voice unwavering. Not at all. I truly am here to take over. For the next 3 years, I will guard this place, even if it costs me my life. Her laughter was bitter as she scoffed. You think you can guard for 3 years? One person guarding a desolate city? Even I wouldn't dare to make such a claim. Her gaze hardened, now focused on the deputy as she ordered, send word back. We must learn what Li Tiangang means by this. Does he truly intend to abandon us? Or does he have other plans? Before the deputy could depart, a figure swooped in, landing before them. An elderly man, his battle armor weathered with age, his gray hair contrasting the youthful fire around him. He nodded to Li Hao and addressed Li Hongzhuang. Miss. The aura of immortal energy that radiated from him drew Li Hongzhuang's curiosity, though she didn't recognize him. The deputy seemed to, however, and exclaimed, Are you General Li He? The name rang through Li Hongzhuang's memory. Li He name that belonged to the older generation, one she had heard about during her childhood. He had been a force of his own, born to a concubine, yet one of the most outstanding among his peers. Surprised, she asked, What brings you here, General Li He? The general's gaze softened as he replied, Miss Hongzhuang, may I speak with you in private? Confusion crossed her face, but she agreed, and the two of them flew off, leaving Li Hao and the deputy behind. Li Hao, however, showed no surprise. He had felt the presence of the elderly man shadowing him for days now, ever since they left Qingzhou. As Li Hao navigated the desolate frontier, a sense of detachment gripped him. His once promising path as the true dragon had ended by his own choice. Now, he walked the dustless road, where legacy no longer mattered. Only purpose. The ancient ruins, the remnants of fallen temples, and the wandering souls he encountered marked a stark contrast to the world he had once known. Amidst this, he met individuals like Monk Yushin, who spoke in cryptic riddles, and a blind forger, whose craft went beyond physical creation, touching on the essence of memory itself. One of his most poignant encounters was with a young girl at a forgotten shrine, caught between the specters of the past and an imminent storm. It was here, for the first time, that Li Hao acted, not out of obligation, but compassion. His choice, made without command or prophecy, marked the beginning of a new chapter in his journey, a journey where power was not sought, but where the path itself held meaning. The dust swirls in the air as Li Hao stands with quiet resolve, facing a decision that would define the path ahead. Now you believe it, right? His words hang in the silence, a weight on both their hearts. Li Hongzhuang's sorrowful eyes flicker with confusion, the betrayal of family too deep to ignore. How could seventh uncle be so heartless? Her voice trembles, questioning the choices of those who should have been by her side. But Li Hao remains unwavering, a faint smile on his lips, even as he contemplates his fate. Dying here, I can at least be considered a martyr, he muses, a stark contrast to the uncertainty in her words. As their conversation unfolds, a quiet resolve settles in the air, willingness to face whatever comes, even if it means standing alone. Yet, despite the bloodlines that bind them, Li Hongzhuang chooses to stay, refusing to retreat. She gazes at the battleground with fierce loyalty, determined to honor the fallen. The heroic spirits of the soldiers still need someone to accompany them, she declares, ready to fight until the end. This isn't just a battle of swords, but one of memory and legacy, where the true strength lies not in power, but in the choices made when no one is watching. The land they stand on is more than earth, it's a testament to those who came before. And in this moment, both are bound by the weight of what must be done, regardless of the cost. Amidst the chaos of war and loss, the surviving soldiers of the Bloodshot Army stand at a crossroads. The last remnants of the once mighty force, reduced to just under 10,000, prepare to return home, burdened by grief and the weight of their fallen comrades. In the distance, mass graves stretch endlessly, marking the final resting place of 90,000 lives brothers in arms, comrades, and friends. Li Hongzhuang, their unyielding commander, her pale face a mask of resolve, announces the army's departure. Her voice cuts through the morning, commanding the soldiers to honor their fallen while they march on. Yet, there are no more reinforcements coming. Only a young boy, Li Hao, who stands in place of those they once relied on. As she tells the lieutenant to go home early, she remains calm and unflinching, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. The soldiers, though weary and broken, find solace in the return to their homeland, carrying the spirits of the fallen with them. Their journey is not just one of physical return, but of memory, of honoring the price of war and the souls that can never be forgotten. The chapter reflects on sacrifice, the harshness of war, and the unspoken bonds that bind those who walk the battlefield. As the soldiers began to retreat, they couldn't believe their eyes when they realized they were leaving behind a young man in charge of this desolate outpost. The murmurs spread like wildfire. How could they leave a child behind, alone to guard this wasteland? Despite their anxiety, the orders were clear, and one by one, they gathered their armor and set off for home. Li Hao stood silently, the smell of dust and blood lingering in the air, his gaze following the departing soldiers. Beside him, a little white fox sat quietly, while Ren Xianxia, holding her sword, watched the departing scene with a mix of emotions. The sight of battle-worn soldiers, their armor torn, blades bent, and hearts weary, shook her deeply. Despite the uncertainty, Li Hongzhuang remained resolute, choosing to stay behind, understanding the unspoken bond between the soldiers and their commander. Yet, she also knew that if she stayed, many of the soldiers would want to remain too, out of loyalty. Her task was clear, however, to defend this lonely city. Li Hao's situation was uncertain, with rumors about his connection to powerful figures circulating, but for now, he was left alone with his destiny, intertwined with this silent, forsaken place. The chapter ends with a quiet but intense decision, one that reflects the silent burdens of a life now defined not by duty, but by compassion. This was the beginning of the dustless road, where paths were not carved by grand actions, but by quiet, unseen choices. In a forsaken land, where no reinforcements would come, Li Hongzhuang found herself standing among countless graves. Her heart ached with memories of brothers who had once fought and bled here, every inch of this soil soaked with the sacrifices of their soldiers. While others, like the Emperor and her seventh brother, were ready to abandon this place, she refused to. The battlefield, the decaying tents, and the remnants of those who had fought here everything was a silent reminder of their struggle. Li Hao, observing the cold winds and endless rows of tombs, couldn't help but feel a deeper purpose. He had come to repay a debt, but the weight of so many lives lost sparked something greater within him. Yet, his cultivation remained insufficient. Although a prodigy, the path ahead seemed too long, and the storm of forces beyond the Empire's borders grew ever closer. Li Hao could only wonder, was there more he was meant to do here, or was he doomed to remain too weak to protect all that needed saving? Li Hao stood at a crossroads in his life, seeking strength and purpose after walking away from the political chaos of his past. In the desolate borderlands, he encountered remnants of ancient sects and wandering cultivators who had long abandoned their former oaths. One evening, while walking through the camp, Li Hao stumbled upon a peculiar figure, Li Hongzhuang, as she silently cleaned her sword. Despite their strained relationship, he approached her, though not without hesitation. Their brief exchange revealed the distance between them, both physically and emotionally. As night began to fall, with dangers lurking in the shadows, Li Hongzhuang warned him not to venture out alone. Undeterred, Li Hao, accompanied by Ren Xianxia and a small white fox, continued his journey through the camp, searching for food. His efforts led him to a demon beast, which he swiftly hunted using his supernatural abilities, showcasing his growing strength. With precision and calmness, Li Hao prepared the beast's meat over a fire, demonstrating his resourcefulness in the face of adversity. As he shared this quiet moment with Ren Xianxia, the true essence of his character began to shine through, no longer driven by ambition or the weight of legacy, but by the desire for survival and understanding. As the sizzling fat from the roasting demon meat filled the air with a mouth-watering aroma, Li Hao kept his cooking simple, seasoning the meat with just salt. But his focus was elsewhere. After setting the meat to roast, he moved to a peculiar tent, examining its black and yellow patterns before slicing it into neat strips with his sword. Using the demon beast's fur, he crafted a brush and, with the creature's blood as ink, began painting on the cloth. The quiet crackle of the fire and the scent of the meat drew Li Hongzhuang to the scene. She asked him what he was doing, and Li Hao smiled before explaining that, while her bloodshot army had withdrawn, he was creating a new war banner, one that was uniquely his. As he worked, his power extended outward, manipulating the forest trees, cutting and shaping them into poles. Soon, a makeshift war banner stood tall, the cloth fluttering in the wind, its blood-red characters boldly reading, Haoshin. Li Hongzhuang, stunned, asked if he truly hailed from the 15 Li realm, to which Li Hao quietly corrected her, revealing he was in the heavenly human realm, a revelation that left her speechless. 14 years old, and already in such a realm, he had surpassed all expectations. Li Hongzhuang vividly recalled the year and month when Li Hao was born, a time marked by the loss of her 9th brother in battle. 14 years had passed since that fateful moment. She also remembered how even someone as gifted as Li Junye had only reached the Celestial Master realm at 17, and yet here stood this youth, having achieved it at just 14 years ahead of his peers. With such talent, you must be the true dragon of the Li family's generation, right? She asked in awe. A treasure like him, left outside the Heavenly Gate Pass, made her question her 7th brother's decisions. Li Hao, with a subtle smile, dismissed the notion, saying, "Talent is just that nothing extraordinary. True strength, however, is what truly matters." Li Hongzhuang, unable to hold back, countered, "It's easy for you to say when you have everything. Achieving the heavenly human realm is not something talent alone can explain. It requires a rare kind of enlightenment." Li Hao shrugged, indifferent. 1 in 10,000 isn't much. Among the Li family's sons, 1 in 10,000 is common. But Li Hongzhuang was astounded. "Your talent is unparalleled, maybe even 1 in a billion among all warriors in Dayu over 1,000 years. Li Hao, no longer wishing to argue, changed the subject, asking, "How does this look?" He waved a haphazardly made banner in front of her. "Not that great," she replied bluntly. He laughed, acknowledging the crude craftsmanship, but secretly hoped it would still serve its purpose in deterring demons. As they sat near the grill, she commented on the meat. "I've eaten lion hoof demon before, but it never tasted this good." With a proud grin, Li Hao simply said, "That's because it wasn't made by me." He spoke with the confidence of a master chef. She glanced at him but said nothing. Li Hao stood before the flickering campfire, his eyes, hardened from countless battles, momentarily revealing a glimmer of light. His cooking skills had reached a milestone, his experience maxed out. Waiting for a breakthrough to the 7th stage, the path to transcendence was elusive, as it required more than focus or passion. Unlike the 3rd stage, which could be reached by mere desire, transcending demanded detachment, a spiritual awakening that Li Hao had yet to uncover. His journey in the art of cooking was stalled as he pondered his next steps. The camp, a frontier outpost, offered little inspirational chessboards. No art supplies, only tools for military use. Yet, Li Hao's artistic talents extended beyond cooking. He had mastered several disciplines, including chess tao, painting, poetry, and music, but none had advanced beyond the 5th or 3rd stages. Despite the limitations of the camp, he resolved that fishing, his second most promising skill, was the key to his breakthrough. No longer reliant on a rod, Li Hao could now fish using his own energy, capturing demons with ease. Still, the process of transcendence eluded him, much like the challenge of carving a skill he considered but knew would take time. In this desolate land, where every choice seemed clouded by the past, Li Hao's next step was unclear, but his journey was bound to shape his future. In this perilous borderland, where survival is a daily battle, he must quickly ascend to the immortal realm to gain the strength needed to fight alone. As he prepares to eat, the roasted meat is ready. Li Hao snaps back from his thoughts, sharing the meal first with Li Hongzhuang, then Ren Xianxia, and the little white fox before taking a piece for himself. Li Hongzhuang thanks him, cutting the meat with precision and tasting it. After a brief pause, she nods in approval, acknowledging the simple meal with satisfaction. Li Hao, still eating, asks her if she truly intends to defend this place to the death. Her posture is no longer the delicate one of childhood, but a solid military resolve takes its place. She dismisses the idea of defending to the death, instead expressing a willingness to accompany her comrades a little further and slay as many demons as she can before reinforcements arrive. Her eyes flash with cold determination, revealing the truth beneath her calm exterior. Li Hao listens quietly, finishing his meal, before preparing some meat for Feng and heading out. He sets up several rough banners, each displaying strong, powerful characters. Though humble, they contrast with the Bloodshot Army's banners, a quiet testament to his strength. Returning to the campfire, he begins recording the cultivation techniques of the Listening Rain Tower. Li Hongzhuang questions him, wondering if he's writing home, but Li Hao shakes his head, his thoughts far beyond that. For him, this world is his home now. Li Hao's path is one of silent defiance, breaking ties with his family in a calm yet deliberate manner. His decision to record and return advanced cultivation techniques to the Li family is not an act of revenge, but one of severance, reflecting his deep desire to detach from his bloodline. Despite Li Hongzhuang's doubts, he reveals that the techniques he's returning are enhanced versions sufficient compensation for the family's loss. With each technique, Li Hao not only elevates the original form, but also imprints his own understanding, turning simple skills into powerful tools. His body, already enhanced by these techniques, surpasses that of even the most experienced cultivators, and his use of the Vajra defense grants him the kind of invulnerability few could fathom. This isn't just about returning what was once his, it's about leaving behind a legacy, not through power or ownership, but through the quiet mastery of the techniques, untethered to any past constraints. Li Hao's calm and serious demeanor under the flickering campfire light left Li Hongzhuang in disbelief. At just 14, he had already reached the heavenly human realm and mastered dozens of techniques. What kind of monster had the Li family raised during her absence? But the unsettling presence of darkness outside their camp pulled her attention away, her instincts sharpening. In the distance, shadows shifted like demons closing in, the air thick with malice. Determined to protect them, Li Hongzhuang grabbed her sword and prepared to strike. Li Hao, however, wasn't one to sit idle. With a subtle flick of his hand, divine energy surged, and the night around them became as clear as day. He saw the demons rushing toward them, their numbers overwhelming. Unfazed, he handed the cultivation scrolls to Xianxia and reassured her, his gaze softening toward the little white fox, Feng, who still hadn't eaten. With a knowing smile, he readied himself for the impending clash. In the distance, the demonic roar of Qihu Jun echoed, hungry for blood, reveling in the opportunity to strike. This was not just about power, it was about survival and stepping into a future where he could choose his own fate. In the midst of a fierce battle, a red-armored warrior stands unwavering. The clash of powers begins as a terrifying tiger demon emerges from the shadows, setting the stage for a brutal confrontation. The night sky turns dark as countless black feathers rain down, but the warrior remains unscathed, moving with graceful precision. Her sharp gaze never leaves the formidable creatures that approach. Surrounded by an onslaught of demons, she remains calm, summoning a divine force to protect herself and break through their attacks. As the tide of enemies closes in, her sword, imbued with intense light, slashes through the horde, cutting down demon after demon. Despite being overwhelmed, the warrior's determination shines as she fights with relentless strength, her golden aura holding back the impending doom. In this moment, the battle becomes more than just a clash of strength. It's a testament to her resolve. A woman standing firm against a world of darkness, embodying the spirit of an unstoppable force. The battle rages on as a black feather flies through the air, mingling with the demons, aiming straight at her. Li Hongzhuang sharpens her gaze, ready to face the incoming threat. With a powerful swing of her sword, she unleashes the Li family's swordsmanship, the Severing River technique, cutting the black feather in half with raw force. But the danger doesn't stop there. From the shadows, Qihu Jun pounces, its giant paw crackling with purple energy and lightning. Li Hongzhuang retaliates, but the force of the strike sends her stumbling backward. As she retreats, a jet of golden flames appears in the sky, faster than an arrow and targeting her. With a flash of brilliance in her eyes, she counters with her own cultivation technique, breaking free of the flames with a burst of power. Just when she thinks she's caught a break, a sharp whistling sound cuts through the air, signaling the arrival of a demon from the Horde, the six-tusked sting pig, a beast of legendary power. Li Hongzhuang's eyes narrow as she recognizes the creature's lineage. But before she can act, the beast strikes with deadly precision, forcing her to use the half-step invincible fist. Although powerful, her attack is incomplete, lacking the full mastery needed to finish it. With a resounding clash, her punch is negated, and the onslaught continues, her blood she in turmoil from the strain. Desperate, Li Hongzhuang calls upon her unwithering power, entering the third phase of the three immortal realms. The air crackles with her immense strength, but she knows that this was all part of their plan. Phi Peng and the pig demon were luring her into this trap. As she prepares for the next move, a piercing sound suddenly comes from behind. With a swift glance, she realizes she's been cornered, and her next decision will decide everything. A storm of flying swords rushes toward the great demons, but they easily shatter the blades with a swipe of their claws. Despite being crafted from tough, precious metals, these swords are incomplete and can't withstand the power of such formidable enemies. One of the demons growls in frustration, spotting someone else approaching. Another one? A mere mortal from the heavenly human realm? This is suicide, he sneers. The young man, undeterred, steps forward, sword in hand, ready to face the oncoming threat. Chaos erupts as demons begin ripping through the camp, tearing apart tents and banners without mercy. Amid the destruction, Li Hongzhuang realizes that it's Li Hao coming to her aid, but she orders him to retreat, not wanting him to be a distraction. He remains calm and reassures her, knowing that the presence of another ally in the shadows would keep him safe. With no time to waste, Li Hongzhuang directs her attention back to the battle, charging at the most dangerous demon, Qihu Jun. Meanwhile, Li Hao faces off against a seductive, serpent-like demon who attempts to charm him. "You smell nice?" she says, but Li Hao's cold response cuts through the tension. "But you stink." As she falters, another, more powerful demon charges, eager to fight. Li Hao doesn't flinch. He releases his energy, shaking the very ground beneath them, and steps forward to strike. The air vibrates with the force of his punch, leaving the demon stunned. This isn't just a fight. It's the beginning of a storm that Li Hao is ready to face head-on. A thunderous punch exploded, shaking the air with an unstoppable force, leaving a burly man in terror as his body transformed, thick black fur seeping out in a desperate attempt to reveal his true form. But before he could complete the transformation, Li Hao's punch shattered his body, leaving a massive hole. The man's life was extinguished in a single strike, and the seductive woman in black froze, her smile vanishing as her pupils shifted into snake-like slits. The remaining demons revealed their true forms, no longer hiding in fear, and the tension escalated. They immediately recognized the danger and began their charge, with the woman turning into a venomous green-scaled viper and others unleashing their deadly powers. Li Hao stood firm, his eyes cold, as he sliced through the air, unleashing a wave of sword chi. Blood splattered as 3 mighty demons fell one after another, their power crumbling beneath the force of his strike. The green-scaled viper writhed in agony, while the many-eyed giant deer's divine soul tried to escape, only to be destroyed by another flash of sword chi. Fear swept over the remaining demons, who turned to flee, their terrifying presence dissolved in the face of overwhelming strength. They had underestimated him, but now they knew Li Hao was a force that could not be stopped. Li Hao, having effortlessly slain 3 demons with a single strike, chased down their fleeing remnants without hesitation. His movement technique, still in its second stage, wasn't the fastest, but his resolve was unwavering. With 1 skill point left, he decisively upgraded it, advancing to the 3rd stage. Suddenly, his movements became like a whirlwind, his Bai Feng Xing technique transforming into its true form, enhancing his speed as wings of energy seemed to surround him. As he pursued the demons, 2 heavenly human realm great demons were slain by his sword, their bodies torn apart by his unstoppable sword, Qi. Despite their strength, they were no match for Li Hao's rapid power. As more demons attacked, Li Hao noticed Li Hongzhuang holding her ground against 3 immortal realm great demons, her peerless technique keeping them at bay. With no need to hold back, Li Hao unleashed his full power, summoning a colossal golden body, a Dharma manifestation towering over 100 feet, radiating a divine aura. Even Li Hongzhuang, momentarily distracted, recognized the sheer strength in Li Hao's soul, a being of terrifying power, a stark contrast to the youth she had once known. In that moment, the true extent of Li Hao's growth and transformation became apparent. In a moment of overwhelming power, Li Hao's heaven and earth law manifestation looms over the battlefield, unleashing an unstoppable force. With a swift movement, he strikes down, annihilating a swarm of demons with a single strike. In this chaos, his options are clear. He could call upon the Endless Sea swordsmanship or the Falling Snow sword skill, both perfect for clearing out the Horde. However, as he has promised not to use the Li family's techniques, he forges his own path. He combines the Falling Snow sword skill with his Yin and Yang inversion sword and the Rain's intent, creating the formidable Blizzard sword technique. This new form, infused with the raw power of nature, unleashes a storm of destruction. Demons are torn apart by the snowflakes and wind blades that flow from his sword, their bodies shredded by the force. The battlefield grows colder as his sword slices through the Horde, each movement more devastating than the last. Yet, even as Li Hao's power reaches new heights, he remains aware of his limitations, reflecting on his growth and the potential of the Zhou-Tian realm. As more demons charge, Li Hao's eyes blaze with fury, invoking the divine might of the heavenly human realm to obliterate his enemies. Standing tall amidst the carnage, he remains a warrior on a path of self-discovery, his journey ever more intertwined with the forces of nature and his evolving sense of compassion. Li Hao, having just stepped into the heavenly human realm, has crossed from a mere practitioner of his own techniques into a force capable of commanding immense divine might. While still far from being a true Grandmaster, his abilities are already terrifying. Moving into the great Grandmaster realm, Li Hao becomes a one-man army, capable of cutting down tens of thousands of enemies. With his divine sword and formidable strength, he sweeps through the battlefield, turning the tide against overwhelming forces. Though his power grows, he faces greater challenges as foes like the Phi Peng plot against him. Yet, even in the face of such adversity, Li Hao remains unfazed, his focus on testing the true limits of his strength. As the battle rages on, a mysterious force, the Heaven and Earth Law manifestation, helps him push through and intimidate his enemies. But the real test lies ahead. How far can his strength carry him in the face of the most powerful threats? With a ferocious roar, the Phi Peng lunges forward, unleashing a powerful attack that strikes like a bolt of lightning, aimed straight for the boy's light. Li Hao, with a calm expression, steps forward and channels his strongest technique, combining the half-step invincible fist, river-severing sword skill, and Meteor's intent into a single, earth-shattering punch. Fury Star! As his cultivation technique surges through him, his strength multiplies, and the 7-star lighting trait triggers, sending his power into overdrive. With a burst of yin and yang energy, his punch becomes an unstoppable force, reaching 35 million Jin. The sword intent, enhanced by the invincible fist and the law manifestation, culminates in a devastating blow that rips through the air like a meteor. The black giant bird, caught in the path of Li Hao's attack, screams in terror as it is sent hurtling through the air, bloodied and broken. The surrounding demons, including the 2 immortal great demons, can hardly believe their eyes as they witness this incredible power from someone they thought was merely from the heavenly human realm. The Peng, feeling the weight of its defeat, retreats in a panic, realizing it is no match for the boy. It flees, leaving behind a battlefield tainted by the aftermath of a clash that shook the heavens themselves. The boy, Li Hao, stands there, his aura an enigma, his power unfathomable as the demons scurry away, the night still echoing with the remnants of that terrifying blow. Li Hao's pursuit of the 2 great demons became an unexpected test of his resolve and power. With the battle intensifying, the 2 demons quickly realized they were at a disadvantage, prompting them to retreat. Li Hao, fueled by a mix of determination and anger, pursued them relentlessly, slashing through the demon horde that attempted to block his way. His speed, enhanced by his advanced control over objects and his Bai Feng Xing true form skill, allowed him to close the distance between them. As he reached the edge of the wilderness, he faced the 2 demons head-on, unafraid of the danger that awaited him. With a calm yet resolute demeanor, Li Hao challenged them, not with threats, but with the promise of a strange request. "I need those tusks of yours for a sword." This moment encapsulated his evolving character, a young man whose journey was no longer just about survival or power, but about carving his own path, unburdened by expectations or legacy. The 6-tusked brute hog, furious and filled with demonic power, charged at Li Hao, whose unwavering stance defied the very beast's might. As the hog's overwhelming force threatened to crush him, Li Hao's Tiger Press feature roared to life. He planted his feet firmly, refusing to yield to the demon's momentum. With a devastating force, he seized the hog's tusks, his strength akin to a true dragon, and hurled the massive creature into the earth, shaking the ground beneath. The brutal hog, injured beyond measure, screamed in agony. Li Hao's power was unmatched. His sheer might far exceeded his heavenly human realm status. His actions left onlookers, like Li, he astonished by the overwhelming strength that seemed to defy reason. The arrival of Qihu Jun did little to deter Li Hao. With the appearance of the Demon King Xianxia, his unyielding spirit became even more terrifying. The battle wasn't just one of power. It was a clash of ferocity and will, where the true nature of Li Hao's strength became undeniable. In an instant, Li Hao's body froze mid-charge, an unexpected deterrent halting his forward momentum. That brief pause allowed him to act swiftly, springing towards the massive 6-tusked brute hog with the force of a mountain. His feet crashed onto the hog's head, pressing it back into the earth as he seized one of the tusks. With a fierce twist of his body, he snapped the ivory-like tusk off, blood spraying as the beast shrieked in pain. Without hesitation, Li Hao thrust the jagged tusk through its vulnerable eye socket, the deadly weapon sinking deep and silencing the beast's agonized scream. Even the formidable Qihu Jun, watching from the distance, could hardly believe the young man had managed to bring the creature, a mid-stage beast from the immortal realms, to the brink of death in mere moments. Furious, Qihu Jun lunged at Li Hao, but the young warrior, wielding the tusk like a sword, executed a move of his own design, Meteor's Fall. The white blade of light cut through the air, weaving sword chi that concealed its true lethality. Qihu Jun attempted to counter with his divine chains, but the sword light was unstoppable. A deadly strike pierced his chest, the divine power of the sword overwhelming even his indestructible flesh. Despite his attempts to heal, the damage was too much. In a final, desperate bid for survival, Qihu Jun fled, leaving Li Hao standing victorious, his strength and resolve now undeniable. Li Hao, a formidable grandmaster of the heavenly human realm, is no ordinary heir. As the legitimate descendant of the Li family, he stands out even amongst his peers yet. His recent feats are unparalleled. Facing 2 mighty immortal realm great demons, he fights without aid, barehanded, overpowering them effortlessly. In a remarkable display of skill, he uses the flying phase from his Myriad Imagination chess manual, attacking from incredible distances with deadly precision. The intensity of his assault leaves his enemies scrambling, but despite their strength, they fall before his power. His enemies, including the fearsome Qihu Jun, are dealt devastating blows that leave no room for escape, with their very souls shattered. Even the great boar demon, struggling on the ground, succumbs to Li Hao's relentless strike. Standing tall amidst the carnage, Li Hao's figure exudes a chilling power as he claims victory over these immortal realm foes. However, the cost is Graith's body weakened from overexertion, a reminder that even the mightiest can feel the strain. His battle is over, but the night winds whisper of even greater challenges yet to come. Li Hao sat on the carcass of the boar demon, a moment of calm in the aftermath of battle. His body, with its remarkable ability to recover when relaxed, was gradually regaining strength. He could still resist any foe short of an immortal realm demon. If any of those great demons lurked nearby, he'd have to rely on his father's power. Reflecting on the fight, Li Hao felt satisfaction in realizing how close he was to reaching his limits, yet the overwhelming power of his earlier adversary reminded him of the gap still between them. Despite having recovered his cultivation to the three immortals middle stage, he knew he could suppress most, but that battle had shown him the true force of a prodigy from the Li family. He mused that unless overwhelmed by a dozen immortal realm demons, he could now at least hold his own. As he gazed at the starry sky above, Li Hao felt the weight of his journey. There was much to refine, many techniques to explore, but his physical strength had already exceeded the limit he'd thought possible. Yet, there was more to achieve, particularly when it came to the power of the flesh. The demon's unique approach to body refinement, built on their reliance on physical strength rather than artifacts, made him wonder if he could learn from them. With enemies retreating from the recent battle, Li Hao prepared to search for the demon's lairs, knowing their warriors would remain to guard what was theirs. The battle was over, but his journey had only just begun. The once menacing demon horde had crumbled into chaos, leaving behind only the smaller demons fleeing in panic. Li Hao, his hands gripping two enormous boar tusks, returned to the camp after catching his breath. It was crucial to inform Li Hongzhuang about the demon lairs and gather more intelligence on the demons' movements outside the frontier pass. In the camp, Li Hongzhuang stood before a graveyard of fallen demons. A small mound once meant to hold significance had now been reduced to almost nothing by the relentless trampling of the demons. Xianxia City, after years of conflict, had slowly crumbled under such relentless attacks. As the last of the demons fled, Li Hongzhuang sighed in relief but quickly shifted her focus, sending her divine soul far into the distance. Her gaze locked onto something that made her pause. Dozens of miles away, the head of a pig demon lay shattered, lifeless. Even further, the notorious Chihu Jun, known for its repeated invasions, was found slain, its body torn and blood staining the earth. The death of two great demons, from the immortal realm no less, was unexpected. Through the night breeze, the silhouette of a young man appeared, calmly stepping through the blood-stained earth. His hands bore the massive tusks of a boar, and he looked entirely unbothered. Li Hongzhuang froze in disbelief. Could it have been Li He? No, that seemed impossible. Despite his background, he could not have dispatched two great demons so easily. The thought of Li Hao crossed her mind, but he was only in the heavenly human realm. His previous feat, defeating the Faipeng Great Demon with a single punch, flashed in her mind. Was it truly him? Doubt and shock clouded her judgment as she stood at the gate, silently waiting for the young man's return. When he did, she immediately asked, "Did you kill this demon on your own, or did you team up with Li He?" In a moment of quiet reflection, Li Hao and Li Hongzhuang exchanged words, a dance of understanding hidden in their brief dialogue. Li Hao, weary yet determined, carries two boar tusks back to camp, where the tension of the battle seems far from over. As his divine soul scans the area, he finds his companions Ren Xianxia and the little white fox safe by the campfire, their spirits untouched by the chaos that had unfolded. Yet, the roasted meat wrapped in leaves is conspicuously missing, leading to an image of Feng, the quiet protector, secretly savoring his meal while warding off demons. Through all of this, Li Hao's heart is filled with gratitude, not resentment. After all, it was Feng's timely advice that helped him face the trials ahead, and it was Feng who had silently shielded him from the countless dangers that loomed over him. As the weight of this kindness settles, Li Hao understands that his journey, no matter how difficult, has always been guarded by the unspoken care of an old man, protecting him from the shadows of the past and the enemies that have long hunted his family. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her as she finished using the Unwithering Strength, a power that demanded immense resources but delivered devastating results. This ability, akin to having two lives, allowed her to tap into an endless well of strength, letting her execute flawless, energy-draining techniques with deadly precision, her combat prowess magnifying. But there was a price. Once used, the power could not be summoned again soon without risking serious, hidden injuries on obstacle to greater strength. Li Hongzhuang, skeptical of Li Hao's achievements, questioned how he managed to slay two immortal great demons alone. Li Hao, ever composed, dismissed the need for distractions from anyone, acknowledging that, unless in a life-or-death moment, no one would interfere. The conversation soon shifted to something more mundane when Li Hongzhuang, still recovering from the energy drain, casually asked about roasting meat. Her stomach growled as a reminder of her hunger, but she showed no sign of embarrassment, calmly attributing the hunger to her exertion. Li Hao, muttering about the irony of a cultivator at the Three Immortals' peak being so ravenous, agreed to prepare the meat, the demon corpses around them offering an opportunity. Li Hao, while preparing a meal, borrows Ren Xianxian's spare sword to clean and prepare the boar's meat, seasoned with salt and marinated over the flames. Despite his cooking skills not yet reaching spiritual heights, he muses about enhancing his abilities. Holding the boar's sharp fangs, an idea strikes him. Could he carve them into a sword? A thought crosses his mind that sharpening these fangs might just help him improve his carving skills. If he could gain carving experience, it would boost his artistic abilities, thus enhancing his martial arts techniques. He begins grinding the fangs with a stone, but when that proves ineffective, he notices Li Hongzhuang's sword and dismisses the idea. Looking around, he finds the bodies of two great demons and retrieves their claws and teeth. Using a beast's horn, he begins to rub the boar's tusks, and soon he experiences a breakthrough. With each stroke, carving experience accumulates, and his carving skills begin to evolve, leading him closer to mastering the spiritual arts of carving. Li Hao advanced in his carving arts, reaching the first stage and gaining a skill point. His movement technique, however, had just hit the third stage and needed a state of mind to progress further. Despite his hard work, he could only wait for the right moment to use his skills, hoping to have a spiritual awakening related to cooking. This could allow him to use his accumulated points to advance in his physical body path, possibly reaching the Three Immortal realm. Li Hongzhuang watched him, unimpressed by his persistent grinding, dismissing it as futile. Li Hao, however, had gained new insights into carving, realizing that polishing was far more complex than he thought. The tusks he worked with were tough, and to soften them, he needed fire. He summoned his fire system skill, the Xianxia Palm, a technique born from his cooking arts, which harnessed intense flame power. Though he lacked proper training in palm techniques, he used it to slowly roast the tusk. Li Hongzhuang, impressed by his diverse skills, noticed the influence of his second uncle's technique in his boxing, along with his impressive swordsmanship. Despite being just 14, Li Hao's mastery in so many areas puzzled her. As he worked, Li Hao questioned her about the lairs of the great demons, indicating that he wasn't just focused on his skills, but also preparing for greater challenges ahead. Li Hongzhuang paused for a moment, her gaze piercing through the air as she asked, "What? Are you truly planning to strike at their lairs?" Her tone was filled with a quiet challenge. Li Hao, unbothered, responded with a hint of confusion, "Is that a problem?" The silence that followed spoke volumes. For her, there was no problem. If it were possible to wipe them out, she would have been the first to take action. She had always longed for the opportunity to dismantle these forces, but the past had shackled her to the defense of this place, keeping her from the freedom to act. The city of Xianxia had already fallen once, its defensive walls shattered, leaving it vulnerable. Even now, with only a few soldiers remaining, they couldn't withstand the might of the Three Immortal Great Demons without proper defense. As she drew patterns in the sand with her sword, she began to explain the situation outside the Heavenly Gate Pass. Despite her reluctance to burden Li Hao with such matters, she was, after all, still a child. She shared what she knew of the encroaching demon forces. Her seventh brother, a figure she no longer trusted, had already decided to abandon the pass, believing the dwindling reinforcements and the neglected walls were signs of inevitable defeat. The reinforcements sent over the years had been insufficient, and no one had bothered to repair the defenses. She knew her seventh brother had sent Li Hao not out of true concern, but as a pawn to further his plan. Yet, what he hadn't foreseen was that Li Hao, just a child, had single-handedly defeated two of the immortal great demons on his first night in this place. Such an achievement would earn him high praise at other frontier passes, likely a first-class merit and a direct promotion to a third-class earl if he weren't already nobly titled. As her sword traced circles in the sand, she revealed the locations of the demon forces, the strongest of which was the Longshan Taoist Temple, a forbidden place ruled by the Dragon Lord, a true dragon from the Four Stands realm. "Do not set foot there," she warned. "It is forbidden territory, and while the Dragon Lord does not often leave, if it does, it would be a violation of our land." Li Hao nodded slightly, his mind drifting back to his conversations with his second uncle while fishing. As the weight of his newfound responsibilities began to settle in, Li Hao's journey takes an unexpected turn when the mysterious figure of a true dragon demon king riding a tiger emerges. The wild image of a dragon on a tiger is more than just symbolism, it's a deadly force, with the tiger bound by chains that are both a restraint and a weapon of destruction. Li Hongzhuang, with a calm precision, reveals the complex web of demon kings lurking in the surrounding lands. The Wan Shan Demon King, a powerful and ancient force, resides in the Wan Demon Mountain Range, its strength rivaling that of the Dragon Lord. The news is, Grime encountering such a force would likely lead to an inevitable fall. Yet, the stakes are even higher as Li Hongzhuang recounts the Sacred Mountain Demon King, a being once from the Holy Palace of Northern Yan, whose dark past and mastery over forbidden arts make it a terrifying force to reckon with. Li Hao, his face unreadable, reflects on his past with the Holy Palace and the years of war his father endured. The tension of the Northern Cold Country's covert manipulations lingers, with sacrifices made to test their borders. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Li Hao's path is no longer defined by battles for power or revenge. Instead, it's a journey towards understanding, one where every decision he makes ripples through the dust of the past. Her expression hardened as Li Hao frowned at the dark ritual of offering living people to demons, a practice rare to the backward villages of Daiyu. These mortals sacrifice their own to gain demonic strength, often exploiting their neighbors for personal gain. If exposed, it would be met with swift and lethal punishment by the Monster Suppression Department. Yet now, even powerful nations were resorting to such vile methods against Daiyu. The cost of war was steep, and every corner seemed to hide desperation. Li Hao absorbed the gravity of the situation, understanding the forces outside the Heavenly Gate Pass, while Li Hongzhuang revealed the demons' potential retaliation after their defeat the previous night. The Chihu Jun and six-tusked Zapig were likely preparing for another attack. They did not reside in the Demon King's lair, but had their own dens scattered far beyond. Determined, Li Hao proposed wiping out these lairs completely, an idea that brought a cold smile from Li Hongzhuang. Drawing crude circles on the dirt, she pointed to the areas where scouts had found signs of the demons, warning him to be cautious of straying too far into their territory. With a steady hand, Li Hao set to work polishing the demon fang with a horn, feeling the progress surge as his carving arts leveled up. With every stroke, his skill grew 500 experience points, and he had moved to the next level, the first hint of a greater power awakening within him. Li Hao's carving skills are progressing smoothly as he refines the pig's tusk into a crescent-shaped sword, feeling the connection between material quality and the experience gained. After testing his carving abilities on a tree stump, he realizes that the more difficult the task, the greater the rewards. As time passes and the bonfire dims, he completes his work, a makeshift weapon that may not cut but would surely deal a lethal blow with enough force. With his weapon ready, he heads out into the night, leaving his companion to care for the little white fox. A brief exchange with Li Hongzhuang reveals her disbelief at his eagerness to confront danger alone, but she acknowledges his growing strength, feeling at ease knowing he has already faced greater threats. As he disappears into the dark, his resolve is clear. The battle awaits. The storm is brewing, and with it, the call to action. Under the moonlit sky, Li Hao's divine soul surged forth, sweeping across the wilderness as it scanned the surroundings. His movements were swift, effortlessly dispatching any lesser demons he encountered along the way. Determined, he pushed forward, traveling 300 li through the night, crossing forests and mountains. The scent of fresh blood eventually reached him, and he stumbled upon the gruesome remains of demon creatures' bodies, torn apart as if devoured by their own kind. Undeterred, Li Hao's gaze fixed upon a distant mountain, the source of the overwhelming stench of blood. Without hesitation, he took flight, heading towards the site. Inside the mountain's cave, a tense atmosphere prevailed. A female voice echoed, filled with fury, blaming others for their lord's demise. The air grew heavy, and just as the cave fell silent, a breeze carried a new presence. Li Hao, with his sword in hand, emerged into the moonlight, casting shadows of slaughtered demons around him. His calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the panic of the remaining figures. One of them, recognizing the young man responsible for their leader's death, immediately thought of fleeing. But before he could escape, a sword strike cleaved through the air, and the once brawny figure was reduced to mere fragments, his body torn apart as petals seemed to materialize in the air. The silence was broken, leaving only the cold, quiet aftermath. Li Hao, after witnessing the obliteration of a divine soul, sits in the cave, surrounded by fallen demons, the flickering flames of a bonfire casting shadows over their lifeless bodies. He flips through 2 cultivation techniques, absorbed in his thoughts. The burly woman kneels before him, trembling with fear, her eyes betraying a mix of dread and concealed defiance. As Li Hao questions her, the mystery of the Dragon Mountain Taoist master and his intentions begins to unfold. The woman speaks of plans to delay the Li family, drawing them into a snare with Heavenly Gate Mountain serving as bait for larger ambitions. Li Hao, ever calm and calculating, presses for more details, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. The woman's answers are hesitant, revealing more fear than knowledge. The plot thickens, and with every word, the stakes rise higher, leaving Li Hao to ponder the true motives behind these shadowy schemes. The confrontation is inevitable, but the question remains: Can the path of the sword, once wielded with precision and purpose, now navigate the complexities of deceit and power? Roar! Suddenly, her mouth expanded, filled with fierce, sharp teeth, transforming into a massive lion's head as she tried to bite off Li Hao's head. But just as she lunged, Li Hao's palm pressed down from above, her chin slamming against his knee. The impact was brutal, as if smashing against stone, and her bones cracked under the force. Disoriented, she was too slow to react as Li Hao's hand swept to the back of her neck, and with a flick of his finger, a sword chi pierced through her cervical spine, severing her head clean off. In that moment, a divine soul fled from the lion's head in panic, but Li Hao crushed it with a breath, sealing its fate. With a calm gaze, Li Hao looked at the two cultivation techniques in his hand. But as he clenched them, they crumbled into dust, scattering on the ground. Standing up, he dusted himself off, took his boar tusk sword, and walked out of the cave. At the entrance, he expanded his divine soul, sweeping the area for miles. He wiped out all demons and wild animals within a 30-mile radius, even collapsing ant nests and destroying fish in the stream by manipulating the soil, cutting off the water source to ensure the wildlife would not return. Satisfied, Li Hao ensured no life remained before disappearing into the night. An hour later, he arrived at another hill basin, home to the six-tusked boar. With effortless precision, he killed a minor demon from 10 miles away and moved into the basin. The stench of filth hit him hard, but he braved it and pushed forward. Inside, he found a mixture of boar demons and other creatures, leading an unrefined existence. After a swift encounter, Li Hao covered his nose and hurried out, glad to escape the overwhelming smell. He returned to the camp, the night retreating in silence as he moved with purpose, his journey ever onward. Li Hongzhuang sat quietly, her sword cradled in her arms as she rested on a small mound. The arrival of Li Hao stirred her, causing a slight twitch of her brows. She slowly opened her eyes, her gaze betraying a moment of weariness, but she quickly masked it with a question. "Did you find it?" Li Hao nodded, and she asked again. "There's no danger, right?" But after glancing at him, she realized it was a needless question. "Almost threw up." Li Hao responded, his voice tinged with lingering fear. A smile tugged at his lips as he added, "You should rest first." Li Hongzhuang shot him a look, but said no more, closing her eyes again, letting sleep take her. Meanwhile, Li Hao returned to the campfire, where Xianxia emerged from the tent. "Young master, you've returned," she greeted. "Haven't you slept?" "Just fell asleep," she replied. "Then go back to sleep." "But you..." She hesitated. "Don't worry about me, go rest," he insisted, waving her off. She studied him for a moment, understanding she couldn't help, and wished him good night before retreating into the tent. Alone by the fire, Li Hao gazed into the dark, knowing Feng was out there, watching over him. A quiet sigh escaped him as he resolved to grow stronger quickly, so the old man could finally relax. "At a meal tomorrow," he muttered, a hint of determination in his voice. "Cheeky boy, remember what you said." A voice floated to his ears, causing him to laugh and nod in agreement. Beneath the moonlight, the night was clear, and their silhouettes Sold and Young were embraced by the shadows, both smiling faintly. Li Hao didn't rest. Instead, he began practicing the body-refining techniques he had recently acquired, 5 in total. But only 2 were of the highest caliber, surpassing even the renowned Thousand Jiao's Holy Body the Listening Rain Tower. The potential of these 2 techniques, the 5 Organs Primordial Body and the Bright Jade True Demon Skill, could only be fully realized when Li Hao mastered his primordial skill. Until then, he could only strive toward that distant goal. Li Hao's practice sessions under the night sky are nothing short of extraordinary, as his body is transformed with every technique. His physical prowess intensifies as his bones and flesh grow stronger, absorbing energy from the very air around him. Standing in awe, he observes the young master's relentless focus as he notices the sheer power emanating from Li Hao's body, much stronger than what mere training could yield. The energy converges from the world itself, fueling Li Hao's growth as his internal organs, flesh, and meridians are refined. The force generated is so immense that even distant observers like Li Hongzhuang feel the ripple. With each iteration of his technique, Li Hao's strength expands, reaching an astounding 400,000 jin. This raw physical power might seem modest compared to other forms of cultivation, but it sets Li Hao apart, especially when considering the resilience and stability his body now boasts. As he continues his cultivation, the perfection of his techniques pushes him further down the path of mastery, proving that strength isn't just about force, it's about the subtle mastery of one's own body and spirit. Li Hao, immersed in the dark demonic chi, becomes a terrifying presence, embodying the essence of a true demon. As the energy of the heavens and earth converges around him, it envelops him in a suffocating darkness, blocking out the stars and moon. This demonic chi, once used only by demons, now pours into his body as he perfects the technique, rapidly progressing through it. In mere repetitions, he attains mastery, leaving even the most skilled cultivators in awe. His physical form transforms, growing stronger and purer with each step. Unlike others who take days to master a technique, Li Hao achieves perfection within a single night. The technique, initially meant for demons, is now adapted for human use, with Li Hao's body refining at an incredible pace. As the demonic chi swirls around him, his eyes reveal a deeper, sharper vision. In this moment, he not only masters the technique, but also discovers a new strength in himself that transcends mere power. Li Hao, in the midst of a cold dawn, finds himself reflecting on the limits of his physical strength, now enhanced to 550,000 Jin. His demon technique, far surpassing his earlier skills, has yet to reach the peak of the Power Passage realm. He wonders if 1 million Jin is required, pondering the vast, almost unreachable limits of cultivation. With the world around him quiet and still, he rests, only to awaken and continue his quiet meditation, writing a new technique. His companion, Li Hongzhuang, watches him in silence, concerned about the approaching battle, yet she knows his calm demeanor hides the sharp focus of someone who is not driven by fame or power, but rather an inner resolve. When she comments on his writing, he brushes it off casually, acknowledging that there might be no one to deliver the technique, but even so, he remains unbothered. His path, now far from the throne and its expectations, leads him into introspective action, where each decision is taken not out of obligation, but from his own silent understanding of what must be done. The narrative is not one of grand battles, but of small, subtle choices, a journey through dust and forgotten shrines, where the weight of each step is more about the journey itself than the destination. Li Hao's gaze pierced the shadows, where Li He stood hidden. Surprised by Li Hao's awareness, Li He emerged, revealing himself and stating his mission to protect the young master under his father's orders, staying until commanded otherwise. Li Hao's response was sharp, rejecting the repeated mention of his father. The tension rose as Li. He caught off guard by the unspoken hostility, tried to maintain his respect. The exchange took a sudden turn as Li Hao's power surged, delivering a blow so powerful that Li He was sent flying, barely able to withstand the force. Li Hao coldly warned him not to speak out of turn, a silent threat hanging in the air. Li Hao, deeply rattled, realized the danger of underestimating the young man before him. Despite his role as protector, the true extent of Li Hao's strength was clear in icy resolve that left no room for pity. Li Tiangang couldn't hold back his anger as he thought of the wasted resources, including a 4-stands realm expert guarding a child. His intentions had always been to send Li Hao to the frontier, to harden him with real-world struggles, and to make him understand that life outside the Divine General Mansion wasn't as cozy as it seemed. But with a 4-stands realm expert keeping watch, the boy's growth was compromised. What's worse, this was against his wishes, and with Li Hao's stubborn nature, the more time passed, the more resentment he feared the boy would carry. Driven by frustration, Li Tiangang rushed to Listening Rain Tower in search of his second uncle, only to find him absent. The guard spoke of a fishing trip, but the mention of Blackwater Demon Lake sparked more suspicion. With the mention of the young master sending pastries, Li Tiangang's suspicions deepened. The complexities of family ties, unspoken expectations, and the dangerous game of favor and control were becoming increasingly apparent, but the way forward was unclear. Li Tiangang's expression darkened in an instant. Instead of focusing on cultivation, you flatter and manipulate others. No wonder the second uncle shields you like this. With a flick of his sleeve, he soared into the air, disappearing from Qingzhou City in a blink. Soon, he arrived at Blackwater Demon Lake, its vast black waves crashing relentlessly. He spotted a figure by the shore. Without hesitation, Li Tiangang flew towards it and landed. The figure, startled by the sound, turned around. "How?" he said, but as soon as he saw Li Tiangang's angry face, his smile faded, replaced by a somber expression. Second uncle. Despite his anger, Li Tiangang greeted him first with a bow and then asked, "Are you fishing here?" Li Mushu, his face unreadable, gave a slight smile but remained silent. "What brings you to this place?" Li Tiangang got straight to the point. "I know you care for that child, but don't you see you're only harming him?" Li Mushu's eyes sharpened. "How am I harming him?" Li Tiangang's voice grew sharper with frustration. "You allow your friend to secretly protect him. Isn't that forcing me to sever all ties with him?" A realization struck Li Mushu. When Li Hao had left, he'd noticed Feng Boping lurking around, seemingly helping Hao. Despite the complexities of the situation, Li Mushu couldn't ignore the truth in Li Tiangang's words. Still, his anger surged as he responded, "You're afraid now, aren't you? You didn't seem afraid when you slapped Hauer. And what of the girl who insulted Qing Qing? Was Hauer wrong to defend his mother?" Li Tiangong stood frozen, momentarily speechless, as Li Mushu's words sank in. The story unfolds with Li Tiangang's internal struggle as he reflects on his actions. His regret begins when his niece, Li Ruming, disrespects Qingqing, prompting a series of events that lead to chaos in his family. Li Tiangong confronts his second uncle, Li Mushu, who disagrees with his harsh methods of raising his son. Li Tiangong, struggling with the balance between love and discipline, insists that his son must endure the hardships of life to fulfill the family legacy. However, Li Mushu's cold response challenges Li Tiangang's views, highlighting a deeper issue. The true essence of fatherhood is not about forcing toughness, but about nurturing love and care. Mushu, who has no children of his own, points out that Li Tiangang's tough love may be more about his own insecurities than the child's needs. Their conversation, layered with regrets and unspoken truths, culminates in the stark realization that sometimes the harshest lessons are learned through compassion rather than force. Ha! Anyone unaware might think you're enemies, not father and son, with all that animosity between you two. He locked eyes with Li Tiangang, speaking softly. I wonder if you ever thought of the child, wondering if he was cold or hungry at the border. Li Tiangang's expression shifted slightly as he clenched his fists, replying lowly. With the protection of your old friend, I'm sure the journey has been comfortable for him. The Demon Kings don't dare attack, and with Li He around, Hongzhuang ensures peace, watching over him. Li Mushu gazed back. Let's not talk about that old friend. Li, he is supposed to step in only when the child faces mortal danger, right? Li Tiangang agreed, yes, or else how would he learn to retreat from danger? With a deep breath, Li Mushu snapped. Go back. Don't bother me unless it's urgent. Li Tiangang's voice turned sharper. If your old friend would stop spoiling him, I wouldn't have to come here. Li Mushu's laugh was cold. Do you really think my old friend is doing this for me? Li Tiangang raised his eyebrows. Are you saying Hauer is friends with your old friend? Who would care about a powerful being from the Four Stands realm? Li Mushu held back his fury, though he wanted to retort. Revealing the truth about Feng Boping could lead to trouble. Leave now! My old friend knows what he's doing. He doesn't interfere unless the Demon King crosses the border. Li Tiangang scoffed. And if they do? Li Mushu met his gaze. Then you'll see. Li Tiangang fell silent, his expression changing. The results of Lu Yuerong's interrogation must be out by now, don't you think? Maybe focus your energy there. Li Tiangang's eyes flashed, but he didn't respond. With a bow, he turned and vanished, leaving only the echo of his retreating figure. Li Mushu stood at the edge of Demon Lake, his thoughts heavy as he watched the fading figure of another. The coldness in his heart slowly faded, replaced by a deep sigh. His gaze shifted to a small depression beside him, where memories of his son's carefree moments echoed. The fishing platform where his child once joyfully caught fish seemed so distant now. Second uncle, another one on the hook. The laughter of his son rang in his ears, followed by more echoes of, Second uncle, look, it's a big one, and come, eat, it's ready. His eyes reddened as he realized that, given his son's nature, he might never return again. Meanwhile, in the capital's grand palace, the air was thick with tension. Officials stood in heated debate, arguing fiercely over a matter of familial conflict that threatened the balance of power. The debate raged between those demanding severe punishment for a young prince's rebellious act and those suggesting deeper investigation into the situation. It was a clash of ideals, discipline versus understanding, family honor versus political stability. Some saw the young prince's incredible talent as a mere spark of arrogance, while others saw potential for something greater, even if it meant defying tradition. The disagreement reached its peak as they questioned the wisdom of placing such responsibility on someone so young, but no consensus could be reached, leaving only uncertainty in the air. The heated debate raged on, unresolved, as each side held its own flaws. Amidst the chaos, the Emperor Yu sat upon his dragon throne, his gaze as unyielding as the night sky. As he listened to the arguments, a small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at his lips, recalling a scene from Lushu Lake. That fiery young man, he thought, his thoughts drifting. His eyes scanned the room, landing on the group of scholars at the far end. With a touch of intrigue, he spoke, What are your thoughts, esteemed members of the Hanlin Hall? At his words, all conversations halted, and the focus shifted to the scholars, who were known for their sharp tongues. Yet, today, they stood silent. Their reluctance to engage baffled many, for they had always been quick to voice their criticisms, even against princes. Were they truly cowed by the Li family or the divine general mansion? That seemed unlikely, given their boldness in the past. The emperor had always placed immense trust in the civil officials, valuing their role in maintaining order. The Grand Preceptor of the Hanlin Hall, stepping forward, spoke in a tone unexpected of him. Your Majesty, while Li Hao's youth and temperament may seem troublesome, he is no fool. His ambitions are vast, and his heart beats for the nation. There's a deeper reason behind his actions, and we ask that you look into this matter with care and justice. His words shocked everyone, especially when a military governor from Liangzhou, who had earlier called for severe punishment, sharply retorted, "A son should never raise his sword against his father." What is to stop such future atrocities? And thus, the battle of words continued, with no clear resolution in sight. As the room fell silent, the Emperor's lips quivered into a fleeting smile, quickly replaced by an icy composure that no one dared challenge. His voice was cold, yet tinged with curiosity. "Esteemed official, what proof do you have to support such claims?" The Grand Preceptor, casting a disdainful glance at the military governor, held his ground. With the Emperor's favor in hand, no martial force dared touch him, and he understood the underlying tension. The fear of Heavenly Gate Pass falling to the invading forces had driven his opponent's desperate actions. Yet, with measured confidence, he replied, "Your Majesty, we have evidence." The Emperor's interest piqued. "What evidence?" he asked, his tone betraying an unspoken challenge. The air thickened with the promise of a revealing answer that could alter the course of events.